welcome to this week's edition of Motherhood Uncorked. I'm here this week with Nick and Nat, and they are the two moms behind the successful food blog, the Sneaky Mommies. How are you guys today?
So good. Good. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Should we get ourselves a drink?
Yeah, let's get ourselves a drink. That might help in this conversation. So let's do it. All right.
It's all easily. The muscles aren't quite there. You just gotta like slowly mix it through.
Yeah.
Okay. Here we go.
Just the champagne.
I'll send it.
I just let it go. I don't usually just let it go, but
I do. My dog finds them and collects them.
well, that's way more fun.
He doesn't eat them. You just find them scattered places around the house.
So how many of these do you open? Just like, your dog is stashing them. Here, thank you. Thank you.
Hey,
Let's hear it. All right. Cheers, ladies.
I know. So
I love you.
How did you guys connect?
Well, we actually met in high school. So, from KW. So, we met in high school. We never really knew each other much in high school. We just never really were in, I guess, like the same social circle.
Yeah.
But we never had the chance to get to know each other. So we actually connected years later with Sneaky Mommies, which I'll actually let Nat talk a little bit about that because she was the one who started it.
Yeah, so I started an Instagram account called Sneaky Mummy, where I was just sharing like food pictures of meals that I was making for my family. I was a really picky eater at the time, and there was just like a lot of interest, and people were asking a lot of questions about it. And I noticed that Nicole, we followed each other in social media as well, so she was posting a lot of pictures that were like food related that she was making for her family. And it was literally just like out of the blue, like it was just like batshit crazy. I was like, we should start a food blog. I could just send her a message. And Nicole responded back and she was like, okay.
Yeah, literally LOL. I was like, really? It's like, we don't even know each other.
Yeah. But then she wrote back like, I don't know, a day or so later, and she was like, okay, are you serious? I'm like, yeah, I guess.
Yeah.
I think so.
Yeah. And so we started like a phone conversation.
Yeah.
We decided we would talk on the phone about what this meant. And
yeah, and what it could be and what kind of what the vision is. And I feel like we kind of aligned right away.
Yeah.
And it just kind of happened. Like, and it just like, we went to be.
Yeah, it's just, I think when we first started, we had that first telephone conversation. We were like, you know what, in 6 months' time, we like keep this for each other.
Yeah.
But
and there's no commitment, right?
Yeah.
And if we love it, great. And if we don't, that's fine.
Right. And if we connect really well with each other.
Why was it so important to each of you to move forward with this blog? I'll start with Nat.
So when my son Evan, my eldest, was born, he ended up losing like a ton of weight. And I basically had like a few choices to get like his weight back. And whatever, I don't know what it was inside of me, but it just kind of like triggered the obsession to make sure that he was like fed right all the time. And then like the toddler stage came around, and he just turned into like a picky eater. Like I feel like everything I would put in front of him, he wasn't interested in. So it kind of became like my mission, or like, I don't know, like my goal to always make sure that he was fed properly and he was getting kind of the nutrients he needed. And it kind of became obsessive, to be honest. Like I was like, that's like all I like thought about for a long time. And I knew that like just talking with like girlfriends and stuff, a lot of my friends were going through the same things. I wanted to share my journey to help other moms and to help other dads and just like parents in general, so that they could benefit kind of from the recipes that I was creating, which I knew were like nutritious and would give like my kids what they needed. Yeah.
What about you? Kind of the same thing? Or do you have anything to add?
Yeah, I guess my reason for starting is a little bit different. I have a daughter who's around the same age as Evan, so she's 5. So definitely, like, she's a picky eater, so I had that challenge. But really, what motivated me to jump on this journey with Nat was the fact that I grew up in a household where we ate a lot of traditional food, at least traditional to us and to our culture, being like Portuguese background. So I never had the opportunity to try a lot of new things until obviously I started cooking on my own when I started living on my own as an adult. But when I met my mother-in-law, she really inspired me because she, first of all, made delicious food. Not that my parents did it, but she just did it differently. And I tried a lot of things that I'd never tried before, new combinations. And it really inspired me in the kitchen. And that's really what kicked off, I would say, my cooking journey.
Okay.
And then I just wanted to share that. Like, as I was sharing it on Instagram, there was two parts for me. There was one, it was like the fun art part of food styling and presenting it. And starting to play around with that. But then, a lot of friends were asking, like, can I get this recipe somewhere when I post a picture of something I've made? And so then that inspired me to take on this this blog with Nat, because I thought, why not share it, right? Like, I think this is something that a lot of people need, where it comes maybe easier to me. It can be a lot more challenging for others. And so I want to help others to feed their families more nutritious foods, but in a delicious way.
Okay. So for each of you, what's the hardest part when it came to feeding your children? What did you struggle with the most getting into a big variety of?
I think just giving them the motivation to try something new. It's very easy for my daughter to say, no, I don't like that before you're trying this, right? Or something new, or
We have that same issue over here.
of course, right? Like, and I think like a lot of parents do, right? Just seeing something on a plate that maybe is not familiar to them, she doesn't want to try it, right? So I have to think creating things together and helping ingredients or fruits and vegetables, maybe in a different way than just placing on the plate. Maybe it needs to be cooked in a with that.
I put a lot of work into all saying. You definitely struggle with the same thing. Like, my kids will never pick up like a raw vegetable to eat at, very rarely. So I feel like I'm always trying to not necessarily conceal it, but include it as part of different activities that I need to, like entrees or lunches and stuff like that. So I think it's a combination of them trying new food, but also just getting them familiar with like stuff that they like haven't been exposed to before.
Okay. So what is your biggest step, I guess, to get your children to try and say otherwise? Yeah.
Well, a few things. First of all, I think making sure that you have an open and honest conversation with your children. So, the point to Sneaky Mommy is not to sneak or hide something that, my kid is not going to know that carrots are a lasagna. But it's more to be sneaky in the way that we use it, right? So I'm going to give my daughter a piece of lasagna and say, what do you think? How do you like it? Guess what it has in it? It has, it has zucchini, it has carrot in it. And so she has a healthy relationship with food, right? And I think that conversation, that open conversation with your child helps enable that healthy relationship with food.
Yeah, and I think for me, it's all about exposure. So I think for a long time, my son would like refuse to eat broccoli. Like, that was like his one thing that I kept getting him to eat all the time. And I feel like I exposed him enough times, so like 15 or 20 different times, where I would serve it like once a week sort of thing and just be like, hey, like just give it a try. But if you don't want to, like that's totally fine as well. And eventually he did, and now he really likes it. So I think it's just like constant exposure and just getting them familiar with it and getting used to the texture and stuff like that. And just, I think like what Nicole said, like having a healthy relationship with food.
I think that like really when it comes down to it, like the biggest number one tip though that I have is try new recipes. And that's what we're here to do and help with, right? Is try mac and cheese, but with a butternut squash sauce instead, I think that that will help you be successful in feeding your children good food is try new things. You don't need to do just like the standards. How can you use healthy ingredients into into a regular recipe that you would normally make, right? And that's what we try to do. So that's what our recipes are all about, and that's what we're hoping we guide other parents to succeed on.
Okay, so I know this has happened to me quite a bit, where I'll be in the kitchen and I'll try to put a healthy spin on a favorite.
Yeah.
Like, my boys both really like rice balls. So instead of rolling them in like breadcrumbs, I rolled them in spelt.
Okay.
Yeah. And they could see that it was different by the color. And one refused to try it, and the other one took a bite. And by a bite, I mean he like touched his tongue to it and was like, ew. And I'm like, but I literally just spent an hour hand making these rice balls for you.
Right. Yeah.
What am I gonna do with them now? It's always there. Like, how do you kind of persevere and keep going when you're constantly running into situations like that?
Well, one quick tip that I would give to you in that scenario is get your children involved in making it.
Okay.
Because that might entice them more to try it. They will be proud that they've helped create that, right? So I think that would probably give them more motivation to try it, as opposed to just putting it on the plate at the end. So, if you're rolling it in the spelt, let them do that job. That's an easy job for a child to get involved in. So yes, that would be a tip.
Yeah.
I would.
And I think for me, I think it'd be all about presentations, presented in different ways that they wouldn't expect, or call it something different. So I make this pesto, like this pesto pasta, which I have like avocado and just like a whole bunch of different stuff like you wouldn't expect in a pesto. Instead of calling it pesto because it's green, and green for kids seems to be like a scary color. They call it mocha pasta. My kid is really superheroes, and it just like makes sense. Now my little one's caught onto it, and she like cuts her own skin to it. So it's just like making it fun and not like. And I feel like it's never forcing. So I never force my kids to have a bite. It's always like, try it. Like, try. You might really like it, or like let's have an accommodation with something else. Like you might really enjoy it, right?
And I think that goes back to building a healthy relationship with food, right? So not forcing them, but finding a way that it actually makes them make the decisions.
Yes. And giving them that control.
Yes.
Where it's like, you may not like the pasta or like the veggie, but what if we like made like a really fun dip to go with that? Is so that it's like a different, just gives like a different component to the whole thing. I feel like every time I've done that, they're like, oh, okay, like this is me making the decision now. I'm into it. Like, no problem, I'll give it a bite, right? Yeah, I think it's all like control.
Let's do a little top up. All right. And we'll carry forward.
All right.
I like I'm so good.
Drink up, man.
Oh my god. You don't understand.
I'm gonna get wild.
Maybe. I'll get a little bit too raw, a little bit too honest.
So you guys have actually brought a couple of great snacks for me to give a try.
Yeah.
We bring the kids down, but they're sleeping.
Yeah.
So I'll give them a try myself, and I'll let you know what I think.
Okay.
You want to grab that?
Yeah,
Sure.
absolutely. Perfect. Great. Thanks, Nat. Okay. Why don't you tell her what you got there?
Sure. So I have these things called power balls, which are basically dates, coconut oil, chia seeds, hemp hearts, and oats. And we just like blend it up in a food processor, and then we dunk it into some sprinkles just to entice the children. But aside from the sprinkles, like about as healthy as it gets.
They look just like Timbits.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah.
Super yummy.
And one thing about these power balls actually is Nat and I did some work for a school where we were doing some fun cooking classes with kids. And this was one of the recipes that we made with a bunch of classes. And there, I think, was a really great response from the children about these. Like, they all really liked them.
Yes.
And again, when we talked about involving children in being able to make or in some way be involved in the process of preparing the food, this is a great one because they can roll the ball in the sprinkles themselves. So
yeah, it's like a fun little project.
Yeah, exactly. And I have here some granola bars. They're sweetened with, they do have a little bit of brown sugar, but they have honey in them, mainly for sweetness. And then there's a mix of Rogers Ancient Grains and oat blend. And there's some dried fruit and other seeds, so they're just packed with really great ingredients.
Awesome.
Yeah.
All right. I can't wait to get them.
Okay.
Yeah.
Start with this one. So, are these recipes available on the blog?
Absolutely. So both of these recipes are on the blog.
I'm gonna sprinkle in my lipstick.
Oh, wow. Worth it.
Yeah.
Those are really good.
Yeah, and the dates in that one is what we use as the sweetener, right? So
And the
it's
binder.
fully natural product, yeah, and it helps to bind them as well. But that's our substitute for sugar in that recipe.
Amazing.
So.
I can definitely see how kids would love these.
Yeah, and a fun way that we actually serve them is with like a popsicle stick.
Yeah,
Or like a
like making a cake pop.
Yeah.
That's a
Yeah.
really good
Right?
idea.
So that's one way we would serve them as well. So just buy those little cake pop sticks
Mhm.
and stick them in there, and then all of a sudden it's lollipop and it's fun and exciting.
Something different and
exactly.
like, yeah.
All
Kids
right,
love
well,
it.
I won't take up the time and eat the whole thing.
Okay.
So what I'll do is I'll put both the links to these recipes in the description,
Yes.
Great.
as well as just the link to your general blog as well.
Great.
Great.
I'll just cleanse my palate here,
Yeah.
and we'll go through these.
All right.
These are amazing.
Yeah, so one thing about these as well is that they don't require any baking. So they're super simple to make. If you've made Rice Krispie squares in the past, this is basically the same technique. They just get refrigerated to cool and to hold their shape.
Awesome.
They're very chewy. They're just
Super, super good. I would.
yeah, they're really great. Yeah. Yeah.
All right. Well.
They are.
All right. So along with the links to these recipes in your blog, you can also find the Sneaky Mommies Instagram and social media in the link below, as well as the links to my social media.
Great.
And if you haven't subscribed to my channel, definitely hit that subscribe button so you never miss an episode. And thank you guys so much for coming.
Yeah, our pleasure.
Yeah,
Thank you so much for
having
having
us.
us. And some champagne on a Friday. Thank you.